What's up? Poker Brandon here. It's been a while since I posted another session video. I'm not recording too much, I'm playing more, and I'm doing well. And I want to give you guys some info into my brain. Here we go. First hand, this is going to be 13 hands. First hand, I open this up. I have ace-2 suited on the hijack, and everybody folds over to the big blind. That is a sign of a somewhat tight, good table. Big blind only has $100. That's going to be about 33 big blinds at this 2-3 no limit hold'em table at the Park West Bicycle Casino, one of the greatest casinos in Los Angeles. So with my ace-2 suited, I bet $8, and $8 into a $20 pot is going to work for a win. I'll take it. I like small ball betting at this lower 2-3 table. I know a lot of you guys say that 1-2 no limit tables you can't really bet and bluff with these like bet sizes, and bet sizes don't matter. I read before. There's a lot of believers out there that just think you can't play poker at these limits, but I have to completely disagree. It always depends on the players you're playing, and everybody can be exploited, including me. Next hand, I have 7-2 offsuit. That is the worst hand in poker. I had to post on this hand pre-flop. I did not intentionally put money in, so it limped to me. I just checked it, and I went to a forced flop of 8-6 queen. And because it checked over to me and I was vlogging, I felt like it would be funny to just win this with 7-2 and show the table. But I get myself into some trouble because no jack seemed to have limp, checked, flop, and now is calling my $20 bet into a $12 pot. That was an over bet that was meant to win this, but he decided to call, and as I'm changing seats and moving my chips over, the turn is going to be a 10 of clubs, and now no jack is going to bet $15. Side note, you might be asking yourself, what the heck is the no jack? And the no jack is also the +1 seat. I call it the no jack because there is no chance that you are going to take position when you open from the no jack. You will never jack position. So +1 no jack, that's going to be the same thing if you're watching my vlogs. No jack's going to bet his full house on the river there, and I'm just going to fold 7-2 and not show anybody because I don't want everybody to know that I'm a crazy gambler. Third hand of this session on a weekday night, I'm going to have Queen 5 suited, and I came to play, and when I see a limpy table and a folding table like this, it's usually a sign of a good table. But sometimes it's just a sign of a table of bingo players, and they don't want to put any money in without ace-king. So I opened this up to $15, and I'm going to get the limper, straddler, big blind and small blind to call. Flop is going to be 9-10-7. Holding Queen 5 suited. I'm just hoping to hit the flop, obviously, but play my range, ace king, ace queen, ace jack, pocket pairs, if it gets checked to me. That's not going to happen in this hand. Small blind is going to lead out pot. He's going to bet $60, which is a huge mistake here. You'll see why. He leads out pot, and I think with his hand he's only getting called by straights and 2 pairs and sets, and he had king 10, so in a way, he kind of bluffed. Like he put out a bluff size, which he thought was for value. I don't know what he was thinking. Like it seemed like he wanted folds, which with that hand, I think you should want some calls there, and you should be wary of 2 pairs, sets, and flops. Straights. Next hand, consecutive hand, played from the previous hand. I have 10 jack offsuit. I open to $10. Small blind calls. In this session, I have a high vpip. I think my vpip here was going to be about 80%, 70 to 90%, I would say, during this session. Small blind checks this 4-5 ace flop. Because it's in my range, I bet because I have all the aces, and he folds. And that small $8 bet is going to take it down. So you can bet low 33 percentage type bets at this 2-3 no limit hold'em table, at your 1-2 table, and it will get the job done. I mean, at least here at the Park West Bicycle Casino in LA at this table. Next hand, another consecutive hand. That means 3 hands in a row I just opened. I now have ace jack offsuit, cutoff calls, and nobody else comes in. So you can see early on that a lot of these players here are not really seeing me open so much, and now they're going to change and exploit their strategy and start 3-betting me. They're not doing that, and I was kind of hoping they would. Especially at this time, I was hoping that now the cutoff would raise me and just kind of just click some mental buttons and say, there's no way this kid opening every hand always has it. And I was kind of hoping he would just play back at me at this point. And I hoped he was the type of guy to check raise here, or just raise, jam, and get me off whatever I have. Obviously, I have trip aces on this ace-ace-king flop. I have the best hand mentally. I feel like I do. When the queen comes, I still feel like I have the best hand. I'm blocking 10 jack. And now here's the river after I bet 33% twice. I just feel like I want to get paid. I feel like the table's too tight. Everyone's too scared. And I'm hoping to get paid by like a queen or a king here when I put out this $20 bet. Hoping to extract a little bit of his money out of his $100 stack that he had. But $20 into 60 is actually going to get a fold from the cutoff. And if he folded a king or a queen here, I applaud you. I feel like he always has to call there with my image at this point, but he did not. Maybe he just had like a jack-9 type hand or a 10-8 type hand, who knows. So next hand, couple minutes later, I'm on the straddle. There's a no jack limp. A lot of limpers at this table. And then there's finally an open from a player who has opened before. I don't think he was extremely tight, but later I will find out that he's a nit. He's a nitty player waiting for, the best hands. So he opens to 20, and when I see jack-jack, I feel like this player would open with the hand like ace-king, ace-queen. And I feel like there's going to be more combos of ace-queen and ace-king than there are than there are of queens, kings, and aces, which he may have. So I sort of take a mental read here and I just go with it, and I tell myself I'm gonna raise this up to 3x the profit that I can win here, which was 25 bucks, so I make it 75. And I tell myself if he jams, I'm just gonna call and hope he has ace queen or ace king. No jack limper. He's gonna fold, and cutoff is gonna insta jam. Now I gotta say too, the insta jam to me, I don't think he would do an insta jam with aces or kings. I feel like he would take his time a little bit and try to get me to call. And maybe he just made a mental note to just jam ace king no matter what. So I snap call just based on my read, and he had pocket kings. So this player was nitty, and he very straightforward player. He wasn't thinking too much about tells, I guess. He made a decision there that if I raised, he's just going to keep raising, and he wasn't afraid of getting me to fold. Maybe he thought I just would never fold, but he ended up having kings. He was a pretty tight player, and he only plays those types of hands. You'll see that. Very next hand, there's a limp and then an open to 15, and small blind calls the 15. And what I do is I use my image that I'm maybe tilted and angry from the previous hand, and I 3-bet this to $70, and I was just worried that maybe the opener on the button would have had like maybe kings and queens, which would have just been super unlucky, but I was going to call off his $180 stack if he shoved, but everybody folded, and no one really wanted to test out whether or not I was tilting there. I would have called, assuming that players were going to jam light against me at that point. Now here we go again. Very next hand, I have pocket twos. And at this session, I am definitely the aggressive guy at the table. I open this up to 1x the pro pot on the small blind. And now I'm getting more callers. So a lot of limp callers now, a lot of blind callers, and I'm getting more action because of my image. Flop is going to be king 4 jack, and these players post flop seem to be playing their hands. So I feel like a 33% bet here could get folds, and if it doesn't, I could still possibly bet bigger on the turn and get folds. But Stradler jams 150 here, which what is the only thing I could assume he had there was a flush, but I wouldn't be surprised if he had king jack. Now again, consecutive hand, that means the last 4 hands in a row you're seeing exactly what happened. These are 4 hands in a row. Now I'm on the button and I opened a 10 because it folded back to me, and I'm gonna play this hand, and I was hoping to get check raised, pre-flop. I didn't, small blind called, and we went to an ace 2-6 flop. Having pocket jacks here, I feel like small blind could just have absolutely anything, like king high, anything, and he just folds, and he played very straightforward poker. This entire table actually played very straightforward poker until right about this time. Now the big blind was a new player that came and sat down, and he was the only guy where I feel like he was playing a little bit out of the ordinary. Low jack limps in here, high jack limps in, button limps in, and big blind is gonna limp in, and I'm gonna see pocket aces. Now this was actually one of the most amazing spots I felt. I felt like my table image at this point was loose, crazy, raises a lot, which means my range is super light. And I felt like players would not give me credit for having pocket aces here if I bet bigger. So what I did was I overbet 3x the profit of this pot. So the profit was $30, the pot was 36. I raised to 100. And I was hoping that this overbet would just look so much like a squeeze that hijack would, or button, or anyone really would just come over the top and jam on me. But everybody folds to the big blind, who's the new player, and he really hasn't seen me play, and I kind of expect him to fold. And actually they all fold, but check it out, I did not have aces. I got you. I had pocket fours. I did not want any calls there. I actually wanted all folds, and I got it done. So you just got beamed if you were listening to that and you thought I had aces. Okay, a couple hands later, 6:23 p.m. on a weekday night, hand 11. Big blind limps to me, and I think it was pretty funny here how at this point of the session, nobody is limping in when I'm on the straddle now because they all know I'm just gonna raise. And that's good, that's what they should do. But the new player limped in, and we go heads up after I raise this up to $15. Flop is gonna be 5-4-2 when I have ace 10 of diamonds. Big blind checks. Really have no read on this guy. He limped in a couple times and folded. So I bet 33% hoping that this would just take it down, but he check raises me very quickly. And because he did it so fast, I really had a feeling that he did not have a big hand here, because usually when players play fast, it's because they're actually weak and they're trying to show strength. But he was new, and I have never seen a hand that he had. So at this point, I figure that a call here could let me see a turn, and if a turn is a diamond or 3 or something with more equity like a 10, I can proceed and figure out what I do on the turn. But then big blind bets 40 when the 9 of clubs comes out, and I feel like at that point I just have to give him credit, not knowing how he plays. So 2 hands later, not consecutive, but literally just 2 hands later, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, low jack limps in, button limps in, and I see king jack offsuit. At this session, this was not a time when I wanted to just limp in. I wanted to squeeze these pots pre-flop, and I was definitely messing around with my image here, and I was trying to 3-bet a lot pre-flop and open a lot. Now at this point in the session, I got 4 callers in the small blind, so we went to a Jack 4-2 flop. Now on this Jack 4-2 flop with King Jack offsuit, I feel 100% that I have the best hand. The only way I'm losing is to a set of 4s or a set of 2s from the big blind or the low jack, possibly the button. But I feel like if they do have a set, what I do not want here is I do not want to lead bet, and then have low jack raise me with like pocket 10s, thinking I just don't have a jack, and then he puts me in a tough spot where I don't know if he's doing it with pocket 10s or a set of 4s. So I checked it, and what happened was button raised bet 40. And when he bet 40, I felt like it was just really like a lot of weakness. Maybe he has like 10 jack. And I felt like I would go 1v1 with him and isolate and all in. And I got exactly that. I raised it 160, and then he went all in and I called. And he weirdly had Jack 6 offsuit. That was the first hand I seen him play. I mean, the first hand I've seen in the hands that he played. And I just think that is completely wrong. If you're playing poker, you do not want to limp call with Jack 6 offsuit ever and hope to hit anything. It's just a huge mistake and a huge sign of a player who really didn't know what he was doing. Now, a couple hands later, I have pocket kings. I open this up to $10, and because of my image, I'm gonna get a couple calls from the blinds, who in the past I feel like maybe would have folded, except small blind, he for sure would not have folded after you realize what he had. Okay, so we go 3 ways to this ace 10-6 flop. Small blind checks, big blind checks, and now me being the aggressor, blocking ace king and holding the king of hearts and all the best aces. I bet 33%. I'm just hoping to take it down. And small blind calls. And when small blind calls, he's the type of player to only have an ace or a queen high flush draw here. So he checks, and I feel like, well, if he has an ace, that sucks, but let me bet small. And hopefully he calls, because if he has a flush draw, I want to charge him, and I want to get money for my pocket kings. He calls my $15 bet on the turn. River's a 2 of hearts, and he quickly checks. Now, the speed of his check doesn't tell me anything. He quickly does everything. He just quickly does every single thing he does. So when the 2 of hearts comes, I just really feel like he could be checking a queen of hearts, ready to check raise me, or just check call weirdly. And I do see him doing this with like ace queen. As weird as that sounds, like I feel like he could have ace queen here and check it because he's a nit. And he had exactly something like that. He had ace jack of diamonds. He did not raise pre-flop. He did not raise me on the flop. He was an extremely careful player, and I felt like I could have gotten a bluff through there. Actually, if I were to go back in time and sit down at that table right now, I would have put out maybe $160, because I feel like his nitty style, he would just fold ace jack. But at the time, I really felt like he could even have, like, as weird as it sounds, maybe 2 pair. And along with the probability that he had a flush on the river, I would just be losing a lot of money there if I put out an overbet bluff and then he called. And around this time, I just kind of wanted to go home. It was a weekday night. I have to work in the morning, and I already won back some of the money I lost during the session. So unfortunately, the session was not going to end with the win. I played for a couple hours, and I was in for 490, and I left with 390, so I lost $100. That's only 33% of a max buy-in at the 2-3 no limit hold'em tables at the Park West Bicycle Casino, so I don't really see that as a huge loss. I really barely see that as a loss at all. It's more of a break-even type of session. But yep, this was a pretty boring, dull session. but nevertheless, a session and a session for my channel. I'm Poker Brandon, and I'm out.